Press the record button.
There you go.
Do they have access to the sheet ones? Oh, that's a pity. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, you see.
Right. Yes, I'm okay. I'm there, fine. Okay. Good morning, everybody. I've got something to share with you. I actually asked Stephen if we could do this before Purim because I felt it would be of greater relevance. So that'll become clearer as we go through this. But this is the earliest date he could give me, The history of this is basically this. For the last few years, I've, in the run-up to Purim, I've taken to learning the Maharal on the Megillah. It's a long sefer or Chodor. So a few chapters each year. And after the Hamas attack a couple of years ago, I saw something the Maharal quoted, which just stopped me in my tracks. And I got interested in this and worked on it a little bit. And it's that which I developed, which I want to share with you this morning. For those of you that have access to the sheets, actually, I'm going to start from the bottom. I don't know why it worked out that way. But you'll know, you'll be familiar from Shul that in our Sidurim, the author of our daily prayer book, after Aleinu, there's a little paragraph with 3 verses, Al Tirot. And the rubric is, in some congregations, this is said. I've never heard it said. And Lubavitch, apparently, Chabad do this, that they, the Rabbi years ago, I don't know whether it was for people's personal problems or whether because of the situation in the world, but he said that it should be said, and so Chabad do this. But in our congregations, you get straight into Kaddish. Never heard anybody said Al Tirot. As it happens, years ago, in the last century, Samuel Alman, the well-known choir master from the Hampstead Synagogue, who composed a lot of shul music, composed a piece for this. And when I was in I suppose I was about 13 or 14, we did it here in Edgware Choir. We had a very large repertoire actually in Edgware Shul, and I remember singing it. And years later, when I was the musical director of the London Jewish Male Choir, I actually arranged it for the male choir to sing. It's a very stirring piece. But even more stirring is the meaning of the words. And what you'll see is I've got this on the sheet here. It says, Al tira mipachad pisomu mishos rishon kisovo. Do not fear sudden terror, nor the ruin of the wicked when it comes. The enemy may devise a strategy, but it will be thwarted. Propose a plan, but it will not succeed, for God is with us. And as you grow old, I will still be the same. When your hair turns grey, I will still carry you. Ani osisi, I was the maker, I made you. Va'ani eson, I'll be the bearer. I made you, I will bear you, I will carry you, and I will rescue you, says Hashem. Now, these are quotations, and 3, they're not consecutive verses. One's from Mishlei, from Proverbs, and 2 are quotations from the book of Yeshaya. So I looked into this a bit. Where does this come from? How did this get introduced into our davening? And what I discovered was it is quoted from both in the Chidor and the Taz, one of the super commentaries on the Shulchan Aruch. They both report that the communities in Provence, in the south of France, say this passage. That's in their time. So these were being recited in medieval times, and I wondered why this is where this started. We'll come on to this in a moment. Now, it occurred to me that I had this feeling that that Trump and Netanyahu were going to attack Iran over Purim over this period of time. They probably did it for other reasons, but it occurred to me that Bibi Netanyahu, his father was a historian, a very strong sense of history. I mean, maybe basically a secular Jew these days, but he's got a very strong sense of Jewish history. And he's Khomeini in Iran is the modern day Haman, and Purim is the time when the Jews prevailed over Haman. I just had this feeling, a few weeks ago, that this is when it was going to happen. I mean, much I know about global politics or anything, but this is, of course, that's in fact, that's what sort of transpired. And we're still in the middle of all this. So the Taz says, this is number 4 on the sheet. He says, he says, I have the custom when the Shliach Tzibur is repeating the Mid and says Sim Shalom, he says, I say these 3 Pesukim, Al Tirmi Pachat Pisom, Utsu Eitz V'Sufar, V'Ad Zignanihu, Anis V'Ad Sebani Espo, right? These 3 verses that we quoted. He says, the Isa b'Midrash, because it's brought in a Midrash, Mordechai, Shar Latinokos, that Mordechai, I'm going to show you the Midrash in a moment, he asked 3 children coming out of Cheder, what did they learn in Cheder today? And these are the Pesukim that they spoke about. So the relevant passage from the Megillah is at the top of the page now, and it says like this, Vayosa Melech es hadabato me'al yodo. So Achashverosh took off his ring of authority from off his hand. Vayidno le Haman, and he gave it to Haman ben Abadosa or Gagi. Sorry, Yudim. So he gave it to Haman, descended from Agag, who we know is from the tribe of Amalek, the king of the Amalekites, the oppressor of the Jews, or distresser of the Jews. And the king said to Haman, the money's been given to you for and the people, do what you like to them, whatever you feel pleases you, do to the Jewish people. And the scribes of the king recorded all this in the first month, the 13th day of the month. Listen, and everything which Haman had commanded should be done was recorded there. B'Shem HaMelech Achashverosh Niftar, it was sent out under the authority of King Achashverosh. V'nechtom b'tapas HaMelech, and it was sealed with the ring of the king. How many of our children or grandchildren have seen a ring that you seal, with wax and so on? V'nishloach sforim b'yad harotzim, and these messages were sent out El Kol Medinas HaMelech, to all of the provinces of the king, Hashmid laharog la'abed es kol ha'yudim, to destroy and wipe out all of the Jews, Minav yad zokein, from the youth to the elderly, Taf v'noshim, little children and women, b'yom echad, on one day, b'shlosha asar lechodesh, on the 13th day of the month, the 13th of the month, Shem also of the 12th month, Chodesh Adar, the month of Adar, and that's it, they're going to be destroyed. So Haratzim Yotzu Chufim Biyad Bidvar Melech. The messengers went out in a hurry. They were sent out by the word of the king. V'hados nitna b'shushan habirah, and so the law was expanded and expounded in Shushan, the city. V'hamelech v'Haman Yoshua lishtos. So and the king and Haman sat down to a party. They're having a good time. Shushan Avoka, but the town of Shushan was in a distressed state. This is referring, of course, to the Jewish population there. Now, nothing of what I'm going to read for you is in the verses in the Megillah. That's the way the Midrash works. It might pick on a word or something, but then it expands and gives us some background. So here comes the piece from the Midrash. So Uvo Nebuchadnezzar. So then Nebuchadnezzar, right, the Assyrian king, the Babylonian king, came Uvasaraf Osa Baishalahim. He burnt their temple. V'hogalam me'alad mosom, and he exiled them from their land. V'habiem beinenu, and he brought them amongst us, because that was the way that the Assyrians and the Babylonians worked. When they conquered a particular territory, they exiled the population from there, so they should no longer feel a connection and any kind of nationalistic feeling towards their country, and they put them somewhere else, and they displaced other peoples from other parts of their empire into them. So he says they brought them to us. Here we are in Babylon or in Persia or whatever. But they haven't changed their disgraceful behaviors. They're keeping Yiddishkeit. And even though they are in exile and they're amongst us, but they make fun of us. And they don't accept the faith of our God. And now we've all agreed on one idea. And we've thrown down lots to work out which day we're going to destroy them from the world. And in which particular time it will work out to be best for us to destroy them, to finish them off. And the lot fell on in the month of Adar on the 13th day. And now, and now that these letters of authority have reached us, we should prepare ourselves for that particular day. And what we're going to do, lahashmid, laharog, is kol hayudim shebenechem, to destroy and kill off all the Jews between you. Minav yad zoken taf noshim, at all ages, the young, the old, the children, the women, all going to get killed on one day. No one's going to escape this. They'll all be wiped out. Now, uvishah shenechtemu. And at the time that these letters were sealed, and given over to the hands of Haman, so he came out, and he's really happy. He's together with his chevra that this is what's going to happen. And these plans are going to come to fruition. And they bumped into Mordechai, happened to be walking in front of them. Again, none of this is in the text of the Megillah. Mordechai, and Mordechai saw 3 little children, that were coming out of Cheder. Mordechai ran after them. And when Haman saw and also the people that were with him, that Mordechai was running after these children, so they went, they followed after Mordechai, to find out what would be the conversation, what was Mordechai going to ask these children. When Mordechai caught up with his children, so he said to one of them, tell me, what pasuk, what verse did you learn in Cheder today? Amalei. So he responded, this first of these 3 verses that we started off with, don't fear sudden terror, nor the ruin of the wicked when it comes. Pasuk Hasheni, And then the second child answered, and he said, Ani korisi hayom, the pasuk that I read today in school, uvazeh pasuk omadli mibeis hasefer, and this is what we learnt about in school. Utsu eitze besufo dabru dov v'lo yokum kimonokel. Right? What do we? The enemy may devise a strategy, but it will be thwarted. It may propose a plan, but it will not succeed. For God is with us. Posach Hashlishi, then the third child started speaking. And he said, Ani espo, ani osisi, v'ani eso, v'ani espo v'amalet. This is the third verse. As you grow old, I will be the same. When your hair turns grey, I will still carry you, says Hashem. I was the maker, I will be the bearer. I made you, I will bear you, I will carry you, and I will rescue you. So, this is the Meforshim say that Nial sees when he says "I made you." This is seen as a reference to Golus Mitzrayim, when we were sent out of Egypt, and then we were redeemed from Egypt, and we came to Mamad HaSinai to Mount Sinai to receive the Torah. That's Ani Osisi. That's Hashem saying, "I made you into a people." At this point, Vani Eso, I will carry you. This is said to be a reference to the exile, the Babylonian exile. Ani Esbob Amaleit, and I will sustain you, I will rescue you. And this is Isaiah prophesying the future exile under the authority of Rome, which had obviously not happened in Isaiah's time. So the basic story is, as you go through life's journey, I say the same, says Hashem. I will rescue you, so be confident. So back in the text, Sheshoma Mordechai Kach, when Mordechai heard these verses being recited to him by these children, Sachaki, he was happy. He was jumping around with joy. So Haman said to him, what was so pleasing to you that made you so joyful that when you listen to the words of these children? I mean, he knows that the message has gone out. We're going to kill all the Jews. So what are you going to be happy about? So Mordechai responded, Al Beseros Tobas Shebisruni, because of the good news that these children related to me, that I shouldn't be afraid of the wicked plan that you have for us. That's why I get chizuk from the words of the prophets and so on, and from what these children, they took it as a simon that everything's going to work out okay in the end. So listen to this. Miyad koas Haman arasha. Immediately, Haman, the wicked Haman, got very angry. And he said, "Ein ani shalech yodi." When the time comes to wipe out the Jews, the first people I'm going to wipe out are these three children. Now, when I read those words, having literally just months after Hamas went into southern Israel and, was slaughtering women, children, and doing these terrible things that we've, of course, known so much about, it just hit me in the face, the words of this midrash. And of course, if you think about it, where do we think of a sudden terror? If you think about it, when Amalek struck, when the Israelites were at the most vulnerable, they just come out from Egypt, they're tired, they're weary, and their water supply had stopped. And they doubted. They said, is God really still with us? I mean, they just witnessed the splitting of the Red Sea and all the miracles in Egypt. And yet still, the moment things got tough, they're questioning God's being still with them. Soon afterwards, so the Torah reports, Amalek descends straight away. Amalek strikes, and it says, Asher Korocho Bader, it came down suddenly. It's like a random happenstance thing. That's something when you get sudden terror. And the same could be said, I suppose, of the Purim story, because up until the point where the Jews took part in the Sudas Achashverosh, which he had, without going into all the details, this 6-month celebration, which Achashverosh set down for all his nobles and so on, was basically the celebration of the end of Jewish history, because the prophecies were that the Jews would return after 70 years, and according to his calculation, the 70 years were up. He got it wrong, but that was his calculation. And the Jews joined in with this. This is why they got into trouble. But up until this point, they had been relatively under benevolent dictatorship. But suddenly their fate changed from being relatively comfortable to being under threat of annihilation. Again, a sudden terror. So this is the history of Altira. Actually, I thought occurred to me that maybe in these times the shul should say Altira and make a feature of it.
Yeah.
But let's get back now to Provence. Why did the rabbis of Provence, do you think the communities in Provence?
The slaves.
100%. So the Middle Ages, right, medieval times, the Christians were going down from England and Germany, other places, and going down the river valleys through France, and they're out to fight the Saracens, the Muslims, the Crusades. But on the way down, if they happen to come across any Jewish towns or villages, they ransacked, pillage and everything, all the Jews on the way down. And the pogroms was invented in the 19th century, 18th century, but this sort of thing was happening well before that. So I have a feeling, I don't know this because maybe it's recorded somewhere in works of history, but I have a feeling that maybe these communities took this midrash and applied it to their own situation because they never knew when's going to be the next attack on the Jews. By the way, just as an aside, does anybody know? Is my time up? Does anybody know how many complete manuscripts of the Talmud exist today? Do you know how many? Huh? Want to guess? 2.
There's the Aleppo, there's the Leningrad, they're not all complete.
Correct. Complete. I'm talking about a complete thing.
Leningrad, I think, is the most complete.
I don't know. Not one. There is not one complete manuscript of the Talmud, handwritten, right? There's a bit, if you say Leningrad, there's a Munich Codex, there's some in America, there's in the Bodleian Library in Oxford. So when the Vilna Shafts or whatever the first shafts were put together, took all these fragments, and from this they built up what they hope is a complete version of the Talmud. Actually, there are, just as an aside, there are variations, and there is a thing called Dikdukei Sofrim, which is a critical text where they've taken all the different fragments on almost every page of the Talmud. There are variations, and they record all the variations, and whichever variation is the most common, they take that as being the most authoritative. So that's a whole, art in itself, understanding. But I think that is basically where this all comes from. So I hope today we've not only seen a bit of a deeper insight into the background to the midrash, the working of the Megillah, but we've also seen where this Altira comes from, and it's just a few psukim, and it takes seconds to say. But I think in dangerous times as which we're living, it may be appropriate for us to say that. Yeah, any questions?
Historically speaking, the 3 boys coming out of failure, could they have been Daniel and his colleagues?
I have no idea.
He wasn't there.
The answer is yeah. I'm not a historian. My background is biochemistry. I'm not. It could be maybe elsewhere in the in midrashic texts and so on. Maybe they suggest that is the case.
They used to sing this Altira after your time here in Edgware, even with I think Malabar in Haynes.
Yeah. It was in my time.
In your time,
when I was singing in the shul crying about.
But they used to, when I first came to it, they're still singing it. They were the Altira.
They used to sing it.
It wasn't every week. It wasn't every week. It was once every 6 weeks.
It's a beautiful piece.
But it was. I must tell you that I conducted the Asian Shul Choir
Saying that you do
when
that.
Malavani came for his trial cover.
You want to? Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. Was in those.
That was really interesting. Thank you so much. I will say goodbye to those on Zoom, and we'll finish
Goodbye,
proceedings.
those on Zoom.
Right. So, fun. Okay, I'll just do anyone to